Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's Miss Loni, the Humane Ed Coordinator for Pasadena Humane, and I am here with my amazing, awesome outreach associate, Miss Izzie. How are you, Miss Izzie?
Hey, Miss Loni, I am doing great, and I am actually here with a special guest.
Let me see.
Da, 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 da. This is
Love
one of
it.
our kittens from downstairs in our kitten nursery, and we're going to talk a little bit more about her a little bit later in the presentation.
Oh, I love it. And I'm so glad, Miss Izzie. Thank you so much for getting us the kitty because we have Sadie Comes to town this week, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. And we have some really amazing, awesome, cool Spanish words that we're going to share with you guys at the end of this broadcast, at the end of the story, I mean. But before we get started, I know my friends are probably really excited and you guys are raising your hands and want to ask a bunch of questions because you see this awesome cat. But I want you to please hold until the end of the story and the end of when me and Miss Izzie finish talking about the cat for any questions. If for whatever reason you need to leave and you can't finish this broadcast, if you have registered, which you already did, you're going to receive this video in an email tomorrow. So don't fret. Also know that there is a chat box at the bottom of your screen, and you can ask questions through the chat box there. So we cannot hear you, but we will be able to answer questions towards the end if we have time to do so. So before we actually answer any of those questions, I want to get started on the story. So let's get it going. So today's book is Story Time. Sorry. Sticky the Kitty, Sadie Comes to Town, written by Chuck Hawley and illustrated by Max Marcel. Oops. Here's the cover. I like the cover, Miss Izzie. It was a rough start, but I was getting settled into my new home. Jojo and Stewie helped me learn the rules, and we got along just fine. I like to cuddle with Jojo. He was big and furry and very comfy. Even though he pretended he didn't always like to cuddle with me, he always let me. I like to sit in Stewie's spot, even though he pretended he didn't like me to. He always let me. One day, I wanted to play with Stewie's toys. Stewie got mad and barked. No, that's mine. Mom told him he needed to be patient with me. I had been through a lot. So even though he pretended he didn't want me to, he let me play with his toy. Everything was great. We were all very happy. And then Sadie showed up. Sadie needed a place to live, so Mom and Dad said she could live with us. But Sadie didn't know any of the rules. When I would go sit in Stewie's spot, Sadie was there. I tried to tell her, Sadie, you don't know how it works. That spot is Stewie's. I sit there, not you. Sadie would give me a confused look, and then she would sit in Stewie's spot. I tried to tell her about snuggling with Jojo. Sadie, you don't know how it works. Jojo doesn't like to snuggle with anyone but me. I snuggle with Jojo. Sadie would tilt her head with a confused look, and then she would snuggle with Jojo. I tried to tell her about the toys. Sadie, you don't know how it works. When the boys pretend to throw the ball for the dogs, it's for me. I go get it, not you. It's mine. Sadie went and got the ball and chewed on it right in front of me anyway. This was not working out. Sadie had to go. I decided to have a talk with Jojo. Jojo, Sadie is mean. She takes Stewie's spot when I'm supposed to take his spot. She gets the ball first when I'm supposed to get the ball. She snuggles with you when I know you only want to snuggle with me. Sadie needs to go. She's making us all very uncomfortable. Jojo sat up in his most serious voice and he barked, family meeting, which of course meant we all had to meet under the table. Uh-oh. This only happened when Jojo had something very important to say. We all sat on the floor and listened very hard as Jojo began to speak. Sadie, do you know where Sticky came from? Sadie said, no, I don't, but I know he's mean. Jojo looked at me and then back at Sadie. Sticky was found stuck on the road on a cold morning when he was just a baby. Dad helped him get off the road and brought him to live with us. He didn't have toys or a nice spot to sit or a friend to cuddle with. That's why he wants to always sit in Stewie's spot, cuddle with me and play with the ball. He never had those things, and that's why we let him while he's learning to share. Sadie looked sad. She didn't know that about me. Sticky, do you know where Sadie came from? Jojo asked. No, I do not, but I know she's mean. She takes my toys, my spot, and my place, and my cuddle place. Jojo looked at Sadie and then back at me. Sadie lost her family like you did. She spent a long time waiting for her family to be part of again. She didn't have a lot of toys or a comfy spot to sit or a soft place to cuddle. That's why she wants to sit in Stewie's spot and take the toys and cuddle with me. She never had those things, and that's why we will let her while she's learning to share. I felt really bad. I didn't know that about Sadie. I looked at Sadie and saw a tear rolling down her cheek. I'm sorry you were waiting for a family, Sadie. That must have been a really rough time. You can sit in Sue's spot. I don't mind. Sadie looked at me and through her teary eyes, she said, I'm sorry you were stuck to the road, Sticky. That must have been a very tough time for you. I'll let you cuddle with Jojo. I don't mind. Jojo and Stewie smiled at us both. Stewie said, that's why we have to be nice to everyone. We may not know what they've been through. Sometimes we just don't know all the things that we don't know. Sadie and I gave each other a big hug. I'm sorry, Sadie. I'm sorry too, Sticky. You want to go play with the ball? Maybe we can take turns. I'd like that, Sadie. And then later you can sit in Stewie's spot all night. Stewie shook his head and he smiled. I learned a big lesson that day. Sometimes we don't know why someone acts the way they do, but we should always try to be kind because we don't always know what that person has been through. Sometimes we just don't know everything we don't know. Sadie and I are best friends now. We know we will always be there for each other and we will always be patient with each other. And I try to be nice to everyone because we just don't always know all the things we don't know. The end. Hey, Miss Izzie.
Hey.
I really like that story. It's a really sweet story. And I think it really brings up a lot of important topics that we like to talk about at Pasadena Humane, just about being patient and understanding that we don't know where all the animals and where we all come from and all the stuff we go through, right?
Exactly. And I think it's what's really nice about it is it gives you kind of a perspective on what it might be like being introduced to a new situation, maybe even if you already in your current situation and something new is introduced, or if you are the new thing in the new environment. So it takes a lot to be able to adjust.
Absolutely. So I have some really awesome vocab words I want to share with all of our friends that are watching and with you. And they relate a lot to the story. And so I just want to share them with you and we can kind of talk about them and talk about the awesome cat that you have in hand. So the first word is pretty obvious word. What word is this, Miss Izzie?
Gato. And gato is going to be cat. As you guys can see, we have a cat here today. And the story is mainly based off of a gato that's just trying to adjust to a life with a new dog.
Absolutely. And so you brought up the next word.
So the next word is going to be perro. And perro, of course, means dog. And this is also kind of important in Spanish. As you guys can see, there's two R's together. That's going to make the r sound. So one R is just r, two R's is r. So perro.
I like your rolling R's, Miss Izzie. I hope
Thank
that
you.
my friends are practicing right now. That's really cool. So perro, right? Okay, cool. There was this happening a lot in the story. It's a big word.
Yep. So that is confundida. Confundida is the act of being confused. But this is actually also really important in Spanish because you can be confundida if you identify as feminine or confundido if you identify as masculine. So it definitely depends what context you're using it in. But like we saw, Sadie was very confundida with how she should handle being in a new home. She didn't know the rules according to Sticky.
Absolutely. And it seems like in Spanish, which we've been sharing a lot of our stories about, is there seems to be a lot of masculine and feminine words in the Spanish language. So it's really important to kind of understand that when you're working, when you're practicing Spanish, is that there are a lot of feminine and masculine words that you kind of have to remember. And you have to, the difference is the O versus the A. So that's really important to know. What about this word, Miss Izzie? Paciente. Oh, I think she's breaking up. So paciente means patience. And so being really patient with your animals, I think that's a really important thing that we have to remember to do, especially if you start off with a new animal at home and you're adopting and you're bringing new animals into the home environment. You want to make sure that you're being patient and that you're being respectful of your animals that you've already had there. And bringing in new animals will cause a little bit of stress. So I know that in the story with Sadie Comes to Town, a lot of that was happening in the book was that we all have to practice patience and the animals needed to be patient as well. So I think it's really important that this was a really important word that we wanted to introduce to you guys today, because if you are interested and thinking about adopting an animal and you already have animals in the home, you want to make sure that you have paciencia. So paciente is the word of being patient and understanding that when you bring in new animals, you're going to have to be really patient because they are going to be confundido or confundida during the process of transition that you guys have. So it's really important that you guys know that when we get started, when you're interested in adopting an animal. So I know that we lost Miss Izzie for a few minutes, but we also wanted to talk about working with animals and the behaviors that animals have while you are bringing the animal into the home. So once you guys have questions, because the story did bring up a lot of behavior issues that you may be having with your animals when they first start off. So it's really important that once they start coming into your home and you have questions about dogs or cats, if they're living together and they're fighting or arguing in a way of like biting or barking or anything, that you can feel free to reach out to us because we have an awesome behavior team, right, Miss Izzie? And
Yeah,
also, go for it.
sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, along with the behavior team, they are really good at giving you hints and tricks about how to introduce animals to one another at home. Or even if you're dealing with an animal that's maybe on the shyer side and you don't know how to bring them out of their shell, they're really good at giving you hints on how to be able to work around that.
Awesome. And that was what I was bringing up when you kind of went away, is just like what I really like about this story is it brings up a lot of questions that kids might have, or just in general, like our public has, about how to better introduce animals together into the home environment. So for example, for a cat like that, how old is that cat, Miss Izzie?
So this little guy, sorry, is actually only about 4 months old and was found as a stray. Somebody was working as a construction worker on a site. They were building homes and they actually noticed this kitty running around. It looked like it was by itself. They couldn't spot a litter. So they went ahead and gained its trust by leaving food out, leaving water out, and just giving it space to come forward. And once they built that trust, they were able to catch the kitty and bring it to us to make sure it didn't have an owner that was missing it.
That's very sweet. And the cat looks like such a lover too. So that tells me that maybe it's not really so much more a feral cat, which is a wild cat, a cat that is not probably hasn't lived in a home and is just kind of living off the streets, versus a cat like this who is entangled in your hair and seems to just be needing your attention right now. So ready for the camera. You picked the perfect cat, Miss Izzie.
He is definitely a lover. Oh, okay, off you go. He is very playful, and he actually is very fond of pounce attacks. So he'll kind of run off and come forward and jump on you, which is very typical of a kitten this age. And Miss Loni is completely right. When an animal is this friendly, it usually means that there has been some level of interaction while it was a very small kitten. So it's very probable that it may have belonged to somebody but accidentally gotten lost, or it may have even had a colony feeder. So it may have been born in the bushes or in the wild to a litter, but there might have been a human that regularly came to give food to the entire colony. So that's maybe where the relationship was built.
Got it. And that's why they have the warmth. That cat seems to be a lot warmer. So it looks like there was some sort of human interaction. Miss Izzie, what's the difference between a cat like that and like a community cat? What is a community cat?
So a community cat is a term that we use for cats that live in your community. A community cat is also a word that can be very, very widely used. So it just generally means a cat that lives in your neighborhood that doesn't necessarily have a single owner. But that doesn't mean that it can't be a feral cat or an indoor-outdoor cat. It's just a cat that lives in the community.
Got it. And we have a lot of community cats in the neighborhood. So sometimes people will see cats, just sort of the same cats in the same areas, and they may have a home or they might be in multiple homes, right? They might be getting fed by 3 or 4 homes and they just live in that neighborhood. And that's what we would refer to as a community cat. Awesome. Thanks, Miss Izzie. I know that, Miss Sarah, I know that a lot of my friends were raising their hands already. So I was wondering if you had any questions in particular that I or Miss Izzie could answer for them right now.
Yeah, one of the questions we have is can cats climb trees?
Cats are excellent climbers. They are equipped with these special toe beans, as you guys can see, that have claws on them. And I don't know if you guys can see that kind of extended there. Hers are itty bitty because she's a baby, but
Yeah.
they're really good at going up trees. They're not that great at coming back down. So that's why you will kind of hear that funny little joke where you have to call the fire department to get your cat down. So they are excellent at using their claws to be able to get up trees, escape from any kind of predators that they might see, or even use it as a hiding space. But getting down trees is a little trickier because it involves a lot of momentum to get down. So it might be a little bit scarier, especially for younger kittens.
You know, Miss Izzie, sorry, Miss Sarah, I had a kitten for, well, he wasn't a kitten, but after like a few years, he always wanted to come outside, and I ended up taking him to Griffith Park, and he was a little older, and he ran up a tree, and then he got stuck, and he couldn't get back down the tree, and he just never learned. It was so sad because he was an indoor cat for so long, but he so wanted to see a tree and so wanted to be in the tree, and luckily I had a very tall friend with me, so he pulled the branches down and brought my Claudio back to me, but definitely my cat did not know how to climb trees, so it's just funny. But Sarah, go ahead. Next question.
Miss Izzie, we were wondering if we could see the cat a little bit more because I think it's off screen. And the question that we had was, do you know what type of cat this one is?
So we have this listed as a standard domestic short-haired tabby. You will kind of see that tabby is pretty much used most times when it comes to cats with this color. It's going to be the gray stripes. Sometimes there's some spots on the fur, but there can also be orange tabbies, which you guys have seen are the Garfield looking cats. But in general, there's kind of a whole bunch of different combination of cats that you can have. So when you kind of look at our website, you're going to see maybe 50 different types of cats, and that's pretty usual for a shelter, especially this time of year. Hi, come here. Say hi.
So cute. And it's really exciting, you guys. Actually, we just launched our new website. It's really awesome. It's really great. It's really easy to access. You can check out all of our adoptable animals. It's really easy to get to the adoptable animals page, and you can see all their information and their photos, so you can get a really good idea of what we have at the shelter currently. I know that this kitty in particular is very new. literally came in yesterday, correct?
Came in on the 18th, but is already available for adoption.
That's awesome. Miss Sarah, are there any more questions?
Yeah, we have actually a couple more really good questions. One that came in was, what is a cat's diet? What does that look like?
Oh, okay. So a cat diet completely depends on the environment the cat's living in. If it's an indoor cat, we do recommend a good a good name brand diet. So something that doesn't have a lot of fillers in it. You would look for something that has a meat in the first 5 ingredients, whether that be chicken, fish, beef, anything like that. It's kind of up to your cat's taste palette. And then you do want to introduce a little bit of moisture into the diet. So whether you do that with occasional canned food or just making sure they have a good supply of water around, but you do want to make sure they're getting that water into their system because they're not that great at self-hydrating, especially through the drier food. That can make it a little tough on their kidneys. So the wet food or a couple of sources of water around the house.
The other question we had was from Carson in Las Vegas, who wanted to know why the kitten is kneading your shoulders.
Yeah, so kitten behavior is pretty interesting. A lot of it stems from when they were born. This kitten is using kneading as a sign of affection. So she's showing that she's comfortable with me, that she likes being held, that she's totally okay with my interaction. This is actually a behavior theorized, okay? This hasn't been confirmed, but it's a theory by some behaviorists that kittens keep up this behavior because it's something they used to do to their mamas when they used to drink milk. And it was a way for them to stimulate their moms to release more milk. So that this is actually a super sign of affection for them.
Very cool.
Very
Another
cool.
question we have was about adopting a cat. So Miss Loni, do you want to share what people can do if they're interested in adopting from us?
Absolutely. So you would go to pasadenahumane.org. You could click on to our adoptables page, and on the page there is all the information that you would have, and there's you would actually speak to someone. So everything is virtual now, so it's awesome. We don't have the shelter available the way that we used to, so we're not walking into the shelter anymore, but you can definitely inquire by reaching out to us, and then there is actually someone who will help you sort of figure out what animals would be best for you and what animals fit. So if there is an animal that you really like and you think would really work well with your family, then the good thing is that our behaviorists and everyone that works there makes a bunch of notes and does their very best to get as much information to you so that you can find the animal that is best for you. So if there is a particular animal, there is conversations that that you will have with our adoptions people to make sure that it's the right fit. Absolutely.
Miss Izzie, we had one more question about cats and bathing and grooming. Do cats need baths?
So not really. If you happen to find a kitten off the street, or if you happen to see an older cat outside that you're able to integrate into your home, I would recommend putting either some flea medication or something on there, but you don't necessarily need a flea bath unless the infestation is really bad. But cats are actually amazing at keeping themselves clean. They tend to spend a good about 9 to 10 hours a day self-grooming. So unless they get really gunky, you don't need to really do anything. But let's say you potentially have allergies, or maybe there's a personal reason that you feel like you need to groom your cat. They sell these really amazing grooming wipes, and there's a whole bunch of different brands that you can choose from, so you're more than welcome to look it up. But the wipes are essentially an animal version of a baby wipe. So you can get off any extra dander, excess hair, you can get off by brushing. So those are really good things to be able to do instead of giving them an actual water and soap bath, because most cats aren't too fond of it. There are a couple breeds that like water, but not necessarily every cat's gonna put up with you kind of dunking them and putting some soap on them.
And especially if you have long-haired cats, and specific cats have different kinds of hair too. So taking that into consideration, you guys, when you're thinking about adopting an animal, or how maybe your house is, if you have a lot of carpet or if you have wood flooring, taking all that into consideration when you want to consider getting an animal into your home, a cat or a dog or one of our critters, definitely is really important. But we have a lot of options for cleaning too.
We did have a question. I think it might be our last question. What other animals besides cats can we adopt from Pasadena Humane?
Ooh, the list is very
know.
long.
A lot.
The standard animals are usually cats, dogs, rabbits, and tortoises. However, we've had pigs in our kennels before. We currently have a pheasant downstairs that has the most amazing gold and red coloring. We have had pigeons in our kennels before. I know we've had chinchillas.
Reptiles.
What else? We had a goat.
Oh yeah, the
So
goat.
yeah, we had the goat. So it definitely depends. We kind of take in most things in our service area, and if we can't intake it, we usually have a rescue on standby or even an animal rehab center that can take the animal in. But whenever it comes to adopting some of our more kind of out there animals, like the pig, for example, we always ask adopters to check with their local kind of ordinances and make sure that those animals are allowed in their area. Because our animals like chickens, the goat, the pig, those are considered livestock animals, and you
Mhm.
need to make sure your area is zoned for that.
Yeah, we have to make sure that these animals have appropriate environments. So even though they're really cool that we get them, we want to make sure that they're safe and that they're in places where they actually should feel more comfortable and environmentally appropriate for them. I think that's it, right, Miss Sarah? So I am really so thankful that you guys actually checked us out today. This was a really fun one, Miss Izzie. I thank you so much for sharing the cat with us.
Yeah, it's no problem. Want to say goodbye, buddy? Hi.
Yeah, we'll say bye. And then I know Miss she's awesome. She always brings us some really great animals. So please tune in to the next story time. I also have, just want to plug me and Izzie, we have another fall programming. We have fall camp coming through. We're actually in the middle of summer camp right now, so we're really excited. This is our first summer camp. And so I am so excited. I can't wait to see more of my friends and all the kids enrolling in our fall programs. We're going to have 2 different fall programs for 2 different age groups. I believe it's 7 to 11 and 12 to 14. So please stay tuned and please keep checking out our Kids for Animals page. And we will see you next time. So thank you so much. Thanks, Miss Sarah, for everything.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.